Good morning. What I would like to start out with this morning is I want to talk about this Dr. Stangle and the Impossible Burger article. I want to give you guys a little bit of my insight. I want to talk about some things that possibly may concern you that I know definitely concern me. There's an article that popped up by somebody named Dr. James Stangle. I think I'm saying the name right. And in this article, it talks about how much estrogen is in, animal meat, beef products, things like that, compared to the Impossible Burger. And this article seems to have taken some people by storm. First, I seen Dr. Barry share it talking about the amount of estrogen that's in the product, the Impossible Burger. And then I seen Dr. Nolly, I think I'm saying his name correctly. I seen him share it, and they're adding pictures of, men with man boobs and stuff, saying that so much estrogen can cause all these issues and stuff like that. I want to play a little bit devil's advocate here for the simple fact that the clickbait stuff is becoming ridiculous with a lot of the keto people, a lot of the YouTubers and stuff. It seems like people are just more interested in drawing people into the movement instead of like the cold hard facts. A ketogenic diet can be very, very healing for somebody that, is metabolically destroyed, fighting type 2 diabetes, autoimmune conditions. Carnivore is even better for the autoimmune type stuff. But where I'm going with this is the fact that it seems like every time somebody posts something, there's like little to no research put into it. People just jump onto that article and they share it to the different platforms because it's a nice face that's putting it out. It's somebody that they trust putting it out, and they just go ahead and start sharing it all over the place as if their word and the stuff that they say is Bible. The problem that I have with that is little people do any research when it comes out. They just go ahead and start sharing it. And the guy that originally posted it was a doctor. And I want to tell you a little bit about the situation, how I responded to it, and basically how I feel about it. When you look at where the article comes from, let me grab my phone over here. Let's look at this. When you look at where the article comes from, it comes from Tri-State Livestock News. It's an article that was published by them. And when you look at what it says by Dr. James Stangle, DVM, Millville, I think that's South Dakota. Dr. James Stangle is I think it's what they call a dietary veterinary management doctor. He's not a human doctor. He's not a scientist. He goes on by saying the Impossible Whopper is being advertised by Burger King as a plant-based alternative to the Whopper. When food manufacturers started talking about making artificial meat, I too thought it would be impossible to make a hamburger cheaply enough to be competitive. You see, I assumed that they would have to buy individual amino acids, the building blocks for proteins, and chemically stirring them together in proper order, then remove the reagents, chemicals needed to cause the chain reactions, and then add something in to give it the right textures. The Impossible Whopper made by Impossible Foods bypassed all of those steps. Let's compare the two. So basically he goes on by saying there's 24 ingredients in the Impossible Whopper. There's one ingredient in beef. Then he says the Impossible Whopper has 630 calories, most from added oils. The Whopper has 660, so about 5% less calories than the Impossible Whopper, not a huge improvement. The Impossible Whopper has 25 grams of protein. The Whopper has 28 grams. Seems pretty equal, only 11% less protein in the Impossible Whopper. However, not all proteins are created equal. And then he goes into the math of, there are 20 amino acids, 9 of which are essential. Some your body can't make. If any essential amino acid does not hit the required amount, it's said that the rate is, it's said to be rate limiting. As an analogy, picture 9 chains connected in a line. All of the chains need to lift 100 pounds to carry a load. If one chain can only support 50 pounds, it doesn't matter how much the others can support. The 50-pound chain is the rate limiting chain. So if you build that chain to equal 100 pounds and one of them, one link is weak, that's basically at the rate of the rest of it, which I've been saying that for years. Whenever you look at animal protein versus plant protein, I've been doing this a lot longer than most of these doctors have even been around doing the keto stuff. I learned this back when I was 20 years old, and I'm going to be 34 now. When you look at an amino acid complex, each chain in those chains have a degree of what the amino acid is rated at. So if you look at the different chains in a single chain, it's only as strong as its weakest link. So you might see a amino acid protein source, and it might be like 15, 20, 11, 13, 14, 22. Well, even though the highest part of that chain is 22, it's still only as strong as its weakest link, which is 11. And then when you take multiple strands and you put them together, you could have up to, just say there's a plant protein that goes up to like 30. Well, it's still only as strong as that chain that's 11. So that's why plant proteins, they say you have to almost double and triple to equal one chain of like an animal protein source, because their chains are much higher. If you look at an amino acid chain from, like, say, beef protein, it might say something like 32, 40, 27, 55, 35. And it's as strong as its weakest link. But when you take and you compare that chain to a plant-based chain, you might find that plant-based chain amino acid is 1/3 of the chain of the beef. So that means it's only 33% as efficient as the amino acid complex if the chain is similar. So that's why they say you have to eat double and triple the amount of protein. And I think that's often why vegans give the answer to why you're failing on a vegan diet, is because you're not eating enough calories. And the reason they mean you're not eating enough calories is you're not eating enough food to sustain what you're lacking thereof. And I think to an extent that is correct. You would have to eat double and triple the amount to equal a normal meal on, like, say, a high protein keto meal or an all carnivore meal. You would have to probably eat 3 or 4 times the amount to get the same protein out of one meal with a carnivore meal. And the science proves that, but a lot of vegan people don't like to agree with that, because they do have an agenda that they want to follow, which that's fine. Do whatever it is that you do. But Dr. Stangle in the article, if I continue in this article, he often goes on to, as an extreme example, bovine gelatin, aka Jello, is 100% pure protein. However, it completely lacks the essential amino acid histidine. Therefore, its value as a protein is 0. In beef, the rate-limiting amino acid is tryptophan, which is 79% of the actual level. In soy, the rate-limiting amino acid is methionine, which is 41% required level. So to compare the Impossible Whopper to a regular Whopper, you would have to take 0.41 times 21 or times 25 grams of protein and compare that to 0.79 times 28 grams of protein. And where they're going with that is they're looking at the rate limiting amino acid in that chain, and they're timesing it by the amount of protein that's in that particular item. So if they look at the rate limiting amino acid, the lowest portion, which is the weakest link, times the amount of protein that's in there, you come up with a figure. So 0.79 times 28 grams of protein. The Impossible Whopper has 10 grams of unusable protein, and the Whopper has 22 grams of usable protein. So, no, let me take that back. The Impossible Whopper has 10 grams of usable protein, and the Whopper has 22 grams of usable protein based on the strength of that amino acid chain. So you would have to eat 2 1/4 Impossible Whoppers to get the same protein. That's where I was just going with that when I was talking about the strength of the amino acid chain. So I do agree with that portion. I do agree with the smallest chain in that link times the amount of protein is what you would have to compare. So the math is there. The science supports that. I know somebody would try to argue with me, but to me, the science supports that. The amount of protein in a product times the smallest portion of the rate limiting amino acid is what's going to give you a animal protein based product versus a plant protein based product. So we know that that part is there. So if we continue on with the article, he says, now let's compare estrogen hormone in an Impossible Whopper to the Whopper made from hormone implanted beef. The Impossible Whopper has 2.5 ng of estrogen, nanograms. Now let me refresh your metric system. There are 1 million nanograms in 1 milligram. That means that an Impossible Whopper has 18 million times as much estrogen as a regular Whopper. Let's continue on with the passage before I give my thoughts. This is where everything starts to fall apart, and this is where I call BS on this whole entire thing. That means an Impossible Whopper has 18 million times as much estrogen as a regular Whopper. Just 6 glasses of soy milk per day has enough estrogen to grow boobs on a male. That's the equivalent of eating 4 Impossible Whoppers per day. You would have to eat 880 pounds of beef from an implanted steer to equal the amount of estrogen in 1 birth control pill. Now, in this whole thing here, he did explain himself very, very well up until the estrogen block. He explained the amino acid complex. He explained, plant versus animal-based proteins, which I agreed with, and that was there. He did very well with that. The science does support that. We can see that this is semi-factual. We can't say it's 100% factual because there's nothing 100% factual anymore other than you have to breathe, you're going to have to eat, you're going to have to pay taxes, and you're going to die eventually. These are the only things. So there's one ingredient. So just look at that block alone with the estrogen. There's nothing supporting there at all. He completely missed that. He crapped the bed on that. He added that in there, but doesn't support how he came up with that number. He doesn't support anything about that. It's almost as if we have to assume that he is the utmost figure on this and he should be the one talking about it. Remember, this guy's title is a dietary veterinary management doctor. He's not a doctor. He's not a scientist. This article was posted on a livestock website. And this is what gets me about these keto doctors and stuff. This is what gets me about these other YouTubers and these keto people and stuff on Facebook is they don't do the research. They don't go in depth to figure out, okay, what's factual, what's plausible, has the research been done, has anything been supported? Should I be sharing this article blindly just because one doctor that's not even a human doctor, he's not even a scientist, supports this? No, people don't do that. They want the clickbait title. They want to get out there. They want to get people interested in what's going on. They want to talk meat, keto, carnivore as much as possible, but they don't go into any of the other research. Who has supported this? Is this just one guy saying this, or is this many people saying this? Where's the rest of the research on this? How you came up with these estrogen levels? It's not even there. This is the important part. This is what we should be talking about. There is one ingredient in the Impossible Whopper that bears mentioning. Beef's red color comes from hemoglobin, the oxygen binding protein in blood, and myoglobin, the molecule that takes the oxygen away from the hemoglobin. To get the same red color in an Impossible Whopper, they used leg hemoglobin. This is the color part. Leg hemoglobin is made by bacteria. Rhizobium. Rhizobium is a crucial bacterium that lives in the nodules of the roots of the legumes, like soybeans. Rhizobium has an enzyme that can take nitrogen from the air and turn it into fertilizer, which the plant can use. The bacterial enzyme that binds to nitrogen is damaged in the presence of oxygen, so the bacterium makes the leg hemoglobin to bind oxygen to keep it out of the way. To make enough leg hemoglobin to add to the Impossible Whopper, scientists spliced the gene for leg hemoglobin into yeast. They can grow the yeast easily and separate the leg hemoglobin and add it to the Impossible Whopper, so the Impossible Whopper is technically a genetically modified organism. I think it's cool that they can do this. I'm all for GMOs, but more should be done with them to improve food supply. Currently, the GMO protein is legal in the U.S. The only GMO protein that is legal in the U.S. is a GMO salmon that is engineered to grow twice as fast, which we all know this. We all know they have salmon farms and stuff where they do all that stuff. So when you watch the next Burger King commercial and you see the guy dressed as a cowboy eating an Impossible Whopper, say, well, I'm a darn fool. Just say, yep, there's another word for really big lie. It's called a Whopper. Here's to hoping that the Impossible Whopper is a possible flopper. The problem with this is he started out the article great. He had supporting documentation. He had stuff that could be found. There was plenty of stuff here that could be supported. Once he got to the estrogen part and tried to blow up this article, it was a flop at that point. There was nothing supporting what he said at all. There was nothing supporting how he came up with these estrogen levels. And frankly, when I look at Dr. Adam Nolly's postings and Ken Berry and all these other doctors that posted about this, the vegans are tearing them up in the comment section because there was nothing supported about that. Yet that's the very principle they created the articles on. Now let me show you an article that I created, different from them, so you can see where the smarter move would have been here. Somebody that took a little bit more time, that put more time into it, doing a little research to see what makes more sense. Now, my article on this, which I told them, I even went on Dr. Adam Nolly's page and I said, I don't think you guys did a very good job with this at all. You didn't do us any favors in the keto carnivore community by posting this. You actually, I mean, this kind of looks silly now, to be honest with you. This could have been done a lot better. And I can honestly tell how somebody created this. And then you guys just jumped on the bandwagon and went to sharing and tried to do as much as you possibly could. It should have been in there. I mean, bottom line is, and this is not even the right focus point. They're not even looking at any of this stuff correctly. If you wanted to present this in a better way and then bring that in at the end, you could have done that. Why is some simple YouTuber that's a mechanic having to teach people how to do this? It makes no sense to me. It seemed like they went right for the clickbait stuff, but didn't actually put the effort into making the article good and then drawing them in at the end to represent that. So if it wasn't disclosed when the article came out, it probably should have been disclosed. I mean, you would think that they would have them go back and edit the article. And why is this on a livestock page? Why isn't this put somewhere where it's better represented? This makes it look like it's a complete falsity in itself. So I want to share what I wrote up. And it's nothing big. It was very, very simple. Okay. Eating the Impossible Whopper may be suicide. Clickbait title, but true. This article write-up was from taking info from many sources, which I believe to be accurate but not 100% researched. The notes posted below are solely my belief. I have consumed one, so I reserve the right to speak on behalf of my experience. I did an experiment. The burger alone was trash, but on the bun with all the condiments, fairly good. Resembles meat well, but compared to a beef burger, there is no real comparison other than texture. Aftertaste I didn't like. The bland taste I didn't care for. It was more like cardboard. My stomach wasn't so happy afterwards. Topic we should be talking about. How does it get its blood color, and what's the issue behind it? The more important factor. Their blood source is soy, like hemoglobin, the red-colored protein in nodules attached to the roots of soybeans and other leguminous plants. What is a leguminous plant? And then I go on to the Wikipedia talking about leguminous, commonly known as legume, peas, the bean family. Large economically important family of the flowering plants include trees, shrubs, perennials, annuals, yada, yada, yada. Leg hemoglobin is very similar to blood hemoglobin, absorbs oxygen in the lungs and shuttles it to tissues. It's 10 times more efficient than hemoglobin at binding oxygen. Human consumption has not been tested. Leg hemoglobin has never been consumed by humans before. The FDA advised them possible foods that they have not proven the safety of leg hemoglobin. Blood hemoglobin is not the same protein as leg hemoglobin. Leg hemoglobin is not produced by soybeans. It is produced in fermenters by yeast that have been genetically modified. Soybean genes were inserted into the yeast that allowed the yeast to produce leg hemoglobin, which is extracted and then concentrated. What can we take away from this? The FDA has not even approved this product to be used, and we don't even know the side effects of leg hemoglobin, but allowed it to be put in the food and used anyway. It makes no sense to go to an extent of going this far to change a natural diet of animal-based proteins and fats, which I believe are essential for a human proper development, to eating something packed with dozens of ingredients and lab-created shit and injected, put together, all because of an ideology. Beyond Meat gets their color from beets. Why not the Impossible Burger? If you're going to put out a product to represent meat, then why would you go to the extent of lab force growing and mixing, changing natural colors of plants when you can use another plant to color it, just like Beyond Meat did? Is it impossible to achieve success without going to the extent they did? This is rodent food, and we are the rodents. The test dummies. The sad part is the FDA even say, no, this needs to be tested first, but basically threw up their hands and said, what the hell, let's just do it. Let them have it. Forget the estrogen numbers people are throwing around. Forget the man boob pictures and the slander. Let's look at the facts for what we do know. Taking a natural product like beef, which has one ingredient, which is simply beef, and consuming it, we have no worries ideally. And switching to the Impossible Burger is suicide, because of what we do know is the Impossible Burger is impossible to justify. It's not healthy with the dozens of ingredients, lab-induced, highly processed ingredients and junk oils inside. We know soy is estrogenic, but what we don't know is the scale at which it affects each person. And I don't believe they can efficiently test for it to comply, especially at this article's scale of 18 million times. There's just as many articles and studies disproving the harmful effects of soy. Seems far-fetched. Stangle is a DVM, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, not a scientist, and the article is originally tailored to an animal farm/website, Animal Nutrition. Let's be real, even the good guys take low blows and short shots at sometimes. We have so much more to focus on than this nonsense, which wasn't even explained where these high estrogen numbers were figured from. It was one medical dude, not multiple, so it's not even a credible source yet, but everyone's spreading the junk like wildfire. Last note, quit messing with food, modifying everything, and we don't need to address estrogen right now. Focus on the root of the problem, like we have been fighting to get doctors to do for years, not the after effect. The after effect was the estrogen, this fictitious stuff that came up. We're after the instant gratification of getting people the wow factor. Oh my God, you see a picture of a man with boobs and it's got to be the soy. Why not go after the cleanliness of the food? The raw property of eating whole food and how healing it can be. And the fact that the Impossible Foods didn't do their research here. The fact that the FDA didn't okay everything that was put into it. The fact that it wasn't completely tested before it was put out. Those are so much more effective than this 18 million times more estrogen. I get that we have a problem with estrogen. We've always had a problem with estrogen up until the food started getting screwed with. Before that, you didn't see any of that kind of stuff. Men wasn't obese. Women weren't, obese. We didn't have all the allergens and stuff that we have now. But again, we keep getting off track. We keep going to the instant gratification, the wow factor of things, when we should be talking about the very fact that these are very highly processed foods. You go from beef, one ingredient, to something that has 25 ingredients. You go from something that's been lab-induced, mixed, processed up, whatever you want to call it, to something that's very natural. Maybe they use hormones in it. Even conventional beef or whatever should be better than this stuff. I mean, obviously. But you're not going to get the supporting crowd behind this. You're not going to get most vegans to wake up when you look at an article like this and look through the comment section of these postings. Vegans are just trashing it. They're going to do that anyway, but they're right on the money when they say it. Almost every single one of them said the same thing that I did whenever I seen it. There's no supporting documentation here at all. Okay, so Crone Woman Walking says this wasn't disclosed when it came out, so they did a massive experiment on people without permission. Okay, so if they did an experiment on people without permission, then how do you even call that credible? Maybe that's why it wasn't in the article. I mean, if I experimented on you and didn't tell you anything about it, and then I put it out to the public, you could turn around and sue me. I didn't give you an okay to do that, and I wasn't part of it. So I don't get why one dietary, veterinary, management doctor, not even a human doctor, it's not even a scientist, has so much credibility in the keto community. And who are the first two people I've seen pop up with these articles? Ken Berry and Adam Nolly. These are two of the smartest guys that we should see on social media when it comes to this. And I think both of them completely shit the bed with this. It should have never been something that was posted in the manner that it was posted, with a man with big boobs and stuff. And oh my God, 18 million times estrogen. You could have done a lot better job in general by representing the keto community, by coming forward with something like, hey, let's talk about the stuff that wasn't approved. Let's talk about how this has hydrogenated oils and stuff in it. Let's talk about how, the Beyond Burger, they're using natural coloring and stuff in meat-like texture from beets instead of lab-inducing something, creating this blood-like, meat-like texture from adding like hemoglobin to the yeast, creating more and extracting it. I think these things would be more important than this estrogen-like effect that supposedly 18 million times, which we've seen nothing on. We've seen no supporting research or documentation on it, but yet YouTubers are putting out videos without even talking about these other things. It's like people are sheeple. They want to, they see something, they have a specific follower, no matter what it is. And if they really trust in that person, I think it's human nature to do it. But I think this is where we need to start breaking the chains of doing this. They see somebody and they really trust in them, and maybe they've lost 40 or 50 pounds doing something. It's not hard to get in front of the camera and say, hey, quit eating sugar. Hey, quit eating bread. Hey, quit eating pasta. Eat as much protein and fat as you want. And then all of a sudden your body responds to it. All of a sudden that becomes your new favorite person, and everything that they say is Bible because you lost weight, now you're healthy. They just relayed a message that came from somewhere else. Now, granted, they should get some credit for helping you, but everything that they say doesn't become Bible. If you looked at me 4 years ago or 5 years ago, I used to say drink the green shakes like Dr. Berg, to clean out your liver and do this and do that. Now I'm like, man, it's a bunch of crap. I've been telling people this stuff from listening to doctors that they've got their own ideas, but nothing's been clinically tested or tried or anything. All we know is we need to stop eating sugar. We need to stop eating processed foods. We need to stay away from highly starchy stuff and start eating more good quality sources of fatty acids and amino acids that come from animal sources, the most bioavailable food you can eat. And then whatever you add in after that, you're your own doctor. That's where we need to be. Our mindset needs to be on real food, natural food, not processed junk food, and following somebody blindly, because when one doctor puts something out that you trust in, all of a sudden it gets spread like wildfire. Dr. Nickel Antonio this morning posted something that really struck me, and I'll pull it up right now. And he was right on the money when he said it. And I even had to mention, you can't really see it, but I don't know if you can see it or not. There you go. This is a doctor that I've been really impressed with lately. Dr. James Nickel Antonio, he's the author of the book, The Salt Fix, and he's got a couple other books as well. He put, just because it's keto doesn't mean it's good for you. Most keto packaged foods are not healthy or nutritious. How long have I been saying that to you guys? How long have I been telling you the exact words of what he just said? And people think that I'm some kind of devil for saying that when I talk about some kind of nut butter treat from, some company or whatever, because it's keto, or some kind of keto bar or snack or something like that, or some kind of keto shake. I'm like, you guys really don't need that stuff. It's just prepackaged garbage. It's highly processed. And yeah, all the ingredients might be there to make you happy and fit your nutrient profile or macro profile, but that doesn't mean through the processing of making this garbage that it's actually what it says. Ideally, you would be correct. It would be on there, but I called the actual FDA up and I talked to them to see what it would take to make a supplement product. They said, we don't care what you put on the label. We don't care how it's tested. We don't care about any of that stuff. All we care about is, are you storing it correctly? If you're making a keto shake, make sure it's in a climate controlled room off the floor. And that's what the health board says as well. But outside of that, don't put that it cures anything. Don't put that it does. Exactly. Let me put this up here so you guys can, I forgot I have this. Mr. Alex says the same with organic, and that's completely the truth. They said all you have to do is put dietary supplement on it, and that's it. Don't make no claims. Don't do anything. You can put whatever you want on the back. You can put your ingredient list and all that other stuff, as long as it has a batch number and it says dietary supplement on it, and you don't make no promises, you can make whatever kind of product you want and put whatever you want on the label if you want. You can put on the label it makes you into a superhero, as long as you don't put that it does anything with your health, it doesn't change anything like physically wise, make you feel like a superhero. Okay, so what? But as long as you're saying that it's not going to make you lose weight, it's not going to change your type 2 diabetes or something like that, they don't care what you put on it. And I said, so I can simply make 150 tubs of some kind of keto protein, and I can literally put it on my garage floor on some pallets. So that's it. There's no regulation. There's no nothing. They said, we don't care what you do. As long as it's climate controlled, as long as your garage can be open to your house, that's considered climate controlled. And as long as it's not sitting on the concrete, you can literally have it on pallets, and we don't care. And then you could do whatever you want past that. So I called the health board up and I asked them, is that the same thing? And they said the exact same policy. They don't care. So you can make all the claims in the world, but that is a post that's worth sharing. That's something from an authoritative figure that I would trust and I would post. And that's why that was my heading. My heading was, now this is worth sharing. Wise words from the Salt Doc. Wise words from the Salt Doc. If you haven't checked out his book, The Salt Fix, it goes into the complete history of sodium and why it all fell apart and why we need it. And why the very conditions that we have today are because we don't have enough sodium in our diet. You guys, I don't mean to beat your keto doctors up that you guys are a fan of, but a lot of you are just way too much into the groovy crowd and not enough in tune with reality. A lot of you have become infatuated with these doctors and stuff and certain other YouTubers that you kind of gotta draw yourself back. You gotta kind of be a little bit more selfish and be your own detective. And maybe I shouldn't even be saying this, but do you see Dr. Eric Westman posting stuff like these guys do with this clickbait stuff? No. These doctors have been around for 30 years. You don't see that type of stuff. Do you see the Dr. Ron Rosedale doing that? Or Dr. Stephen Feeney or Jeff Volek? You don't see none of them doing that stuff. They care about the science. They care about what's in the food, what's going on with it and stuff like that. They're not trying to clickbait you or draw you into articles and stuff like that and stir up the vegan community. Maybe that's why these new doctors are around, because they're social media butterflies is what I call them. Maybe that's good for the keto community or something. I don't know. I know it bothers the hell out of me because I'm going to be 34 years old in January, and I feel like I'm dealing with a bunch of 15, 16-year-old people posting on social media that just want the clicks and the subscribers. It's aggravating. And I've had enough of it. And I feel like we should be doing much better than what we're doing when we talk about stuff, when we post stuff. We should be putting more thought into it and researching it better. We have grown men that are medical providers that I've actually recommended people go see, both of them and other ones that I've seen this from. And people go see them, and then I eventually regret it because I'm like, you guys could be doing so much better than this. And it just seems like it's not doing us any justice. They're laughing at us now. So anyway, I'm going to get ready to go to work. I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit this morning because it's been a couple days. If you like the channel, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I don't like asking that, but sometimes that's the only way to remind people because they forget. And I appreciate you guys. And be blessed. And we'll be back here again. So if you have any ideas on any message or topic or something you want me to cover or talk about, I'd be more than glad to do a few days of research and dig into it or whatever it may be and get it talked about. So I appreciate you. I'm going to get off of here. You guys have a great day. Be blessed.